FBI now is investigating LA gang members who have gone overseas to fight in Syria.
Of the Syrian conflict today, it seems, but maybe you guys can help me solve another mystery that's tied into it, and it has to do with a couple of gang members who have appeared on social media sites fighting on the front lines in Syria. This has been in news sites all across the country today. We'll just play you a little bit of it. It's very profane. You just got to see the clip.
Hey, we still right here, homie. Morning.
We got the enemigos right there, homie. Let me represent myself, homie. It's Creeper, homie, from that G-13 gang, homie. Sun Valley gang, homie.
Wino from Westside Armenian Power gang, homie.
Still puro sureños putting it
Right
down,
here,
homie.
homie.
And Middle East, in Syria, still gang banging, not giving a homie. Good, Molly. Check out the enemigos right there, homie. They're all right there, dog. We still got love for all your homies, all the sureños,
All you
homie.
vatos.
Let's put this down to all these homie. All the sureños, homie, not giving a
That's how we do it, dog.
Syria gang banging. Look at this man, homie.
We're in the front line, homie. Front line, homie. We
Turn
don't
that
get
off,
off,
homie. Turn
dog.
that off, homie.
This might have been one of the strangest videos to come out from the Syrian War. Filmed in and around the battlefield of Aleppo. This clip would blow up, going viral and being featured in mainstream publications. And it still pops up today in certain forums, causing many to come up with questions like, just how did these gangsters by the names of Wino and Creeper get from sunny LA to war-torn Syria? Just how and why did they get there? With Wino and Creeper's real names being Nurses Kilayan and Saru Madarian, they originally came to the United States sometime in the early 1990s as immigrants from Syria. Both these men are Syrian nationals of Armenian descent, a minority group within Syria. The two would arrive in LA County with their families where they would live and reside in North LA, in areas such as Glendale and Pasadena. These areas in northern LA, where the men would grow up in, had a high Armenian population, amongst the other Mexican and Hispanic communities residing there. Both men would delve into the criminal world, being involved in criminal gangs in the northern LA area, with Creeper being a member of the Grumpy Winos, dubbed Trece gang, from Sun Valley, LA, and Wino being a part of the well-known and respected Armenian Power gang, with both these organizations having close links and affiliations with the Mexican mafia syndicates. For both of these men, their involvement in criminal gangs and their crimes committed would ultimately end up in their deportations from the United States. Both men would be convicted of crimes ranging from drunk driving to receiving stolen property, with Creeper being first deported in 2010 and Wino shortly after in 2012. The two men would return to a homeland, soon to be fully engulfed in the grips of a raging civil war. The Syrian Armenian minority, to which Wino and Creeper belonged to, supported Bashar al-Assad and his regime, as for many years al-Assad had vowed to protect minority groups within Syria, as well as fearing the rebels and their element of Islamic fundamentalism, and how the Islamists could treat the Christian minority. The Syrian Armenians would fear being treated as second-class citizens should the rebels succeed in victory. Many other minority groups in Syria were to be caught between a rock and a hard place, as they had to choose between the al-Assad government, which claimed to protect them, and the anti-government rebels, which, as mentioned too, incorporated jihadist groups of the likes of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, who would not take too kindly to minority religious groups and their culture. Turkey's further support, both financially and militarily, for the rebels of the Free Syrian Army would cause many of the Syrian Armenians to turn to the al-Assad regime for both support and protection. This would add further fears to the mix, considering Turkey and Armenia's troubled past and subsequent genocide at the turn of the century, this still being fresh in the minds of the Armenian population. Wino and Creeper, as part of the Armenian community, would take up arms to fight and protect their fellow Armenians. The men would join up with Hezbollah units, fighting alongside Armenian militias allied with al-Assad. The Syrian Armenians would come to view Hezbollah in a different light, seeing them as a purely political and not a religious organization in their alliance against the rebels. Wino and Creeper would be involved in and around the Battle of Aleppo, as one of the biggest battles of the Syrian War would take place for control of the city. It's here, during this battle around the outskirts of Aleppo, that the now famous video of the two would be filmed and posted online to the world, creating headlines and adding even more questions and further complexity to this war. As at that time, the video appeared to be one of the first occasions that foreign fighters from the USA were filmed and captured fighting on the side of the Assad regime. As of that point in 2014, nearly all foreign fighters that converged onto Syria following the outbreak of war did so on the rebel front. In the video, you can see the men also referred to their enemies as enemigos,
Go, Molly. Check out the enemigos right there, homie.
with them too giving shout-outs to those back in the States.
And shout out, homie, Capone, Mr. Criminal from Silver Lake, homie, Capone from Cyclone, and Crazy Loco from Pasadena, and Pink Lady. We still got love for your girl. We still got love for all your homies, all the Sureños,
All you vatos.
With Creeper mentioning a Mr. Capone, Mr. Criminal and Pink Lady. These all being gangster rappers from the LA area, belonging to a group known as High Power Soldiers. Concern was high in the United States whether or not Wino and Creeper were indeed American citizens and could potentially return back stateside. Shortly after, the men were identified as Syrian nationals by Sergeant Tom Lorenzo of the Glendale Police Department. Wino and Creeper would continue to fight on the side of al-Assad, eventually linking up with more American fighters, as seen in this video, where they can be seen having some downtime.
Fucking Wino knows what's up. Hey, homie, we're gonna do a roll call, homie. Wino, where you from, man?
Hey, Westside Armenian Power Gang, homies. Westside, fucking Rifa, esse.
That's right, Lil
Hey,
Criminal.
Pig Gang or Don't Bang, homie.
Big Creeps from Sun Valley, Grumpy Winos, 3
Yeah, pulling
gang,
it
homie.
down there quick.
If you
know
look
what
into
I'm
my eyes,
saying?
homie, you see where I'm at, right? Look
Hey,
at
we
all
got
that.
me, dog. Look in my eyes and tell me what you see, dog. Hey, motherfuckers better see a gangster.
We
We
got
got
fucking
fucking
cross-eyed,
deported.
homie.
Well,
Hell
hopefully we getting back. You know what I'm saying? Hey, dog. This is my spot right here. That's it. The fucking big homie, OG Wino. This is right here. I fucking bang, homie.
You know, it's
And
all
the
about
niggas,
the
dog.
dressing.
The homies came through to saw me, dog. You know what I mean?
A few months later, tragedy would strike, as Wino would be killed in action late in 2015. His passing was greatly mourned by those in his community, both in Syria and back in the United States. A song by the Armenian Power Gang would also be made to commemorate the passing of Wino and pay respects.
Don't know where to go, please help me, Lord Jesus, can't take it no more. We always gonna love you, dog, until the end. Even if y'all ain't here, y'all always be my friend, through thick and thin. I'ma pour a little gin, light a J next to your grave, like we always been doing. Everything that ever happened, like we always been through.
In the photo, we can see Creeper paying respects to his friend at the funeral. For Creeper, his time in Syria was also at an end, as he would leave Syria around the same time frame between 2015 and 2016, where he would leave Syria and settle down in Armenia, in the capital of Yerevan, where he still resides to this day with his young son. Creeper continues to pay respect to Wino through his social media posts, paying homage and respects to the fallen homie. For the men, Their war in Syria is over, but for thousands of Syrians, the war is still ongoing and a quagmire of a conflict, now 12 years long. Al-Assad has emerged victorious, as at this point, he has regained most of his territory lost, as well as tipping the scales in his favor, since the help of foreign intervention and military support from Russia and Iran. As of 2023, the conflict between the government and the rebel groups have mostly subsided, with the odd flare-up in northwestern Syria, where a few rebel groups still remain.